I am with Hadley today, and she is going to tell us all about what it's like to be a working artist. And before I introduce her, I'm going to introduce you to her work. I'm on hadleywrap.com, and look at that. So beautiful. So now you see the art that Hadley produces, and now we'll have you meet Hadley. Welcome and thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'll just lead in with tell me a little bit about what it's like to be an artist and what a day looks like for you, or maybe even a week.
Yeah, so for me, it depends on what project I'm working on. So if I'm working on paintings, I typically work on panels. And if I'm working on paintings, I'll be working from home at my home studio. And yeah, my day usually just looks like going into the studio, and I usually work on multiple paintings at a time so I can kind of create layers on them and let them dry as I'm working on other pieces. And then if I'm working on like a site-specific mural, I'll be traveling to the location where I'm working on the mural. I usually, will go in the morning and then work on the mural all day long. Yeah, and then head back at night. Yeah.
So is every day similar? Every day is different? Somewhere in between? Give us an idea.
Yeah. Every day is a little different. It depends, like if I have like projects or jobs to be working on, or if things are a little slower. So yeah, and kind of what I'm working on will change. And but for the most part, just trying to find studio time every day. And yeah.
I love hearing about the path of an artist. So, this is one of those careers that sometimes people have a hard time connecting, committing to. They sort of push it off as a hobby and then never find themselves, having passion for a career. It can be a really good fit. So can you tell us about what that process was like for you, and then maybe your actual educational path?
Yeah. So growing up, I always loved art. I always loved being creative. And it was always just something that was a part of my life and that I did. And then when I started college at Sonoma State University, and I started as an undeclared major. And then I took an art class as an elective, and that it became very clear to me that that was like what I loved doing the most and what I was the most passionate about. And so then I ended up declaring my major in fine art. And so then I graduated Sonoma State with my BFA in fine art with an emphasis in painting. And then, after that, I went on to get my master's in fine art in San Francisco at California College of the Arts. It's funny, I think those, like the degrees aren't necessary for like a career in art, but for me, it really felt like the right path, and it felt like the people I met and the connections I made really helped my career and helped kind of my growth as an artist. Yeah.
A lot of our career guest speakers have talked about networking and the importance of connecting with others. So even in something that's seemingly solo, work, it's not. You have to be hired, you have to be known, and do you ever work with others in your creative process, or is that always solo?
That's a good question. It's mostly solo. I mean, I've been like commissioned to do work, and sometimes the people who commission me have ideas of what they want. So in that way, it's kind of a collaboration of if they have something in mind, and then putting in my own kind of work into it. But yeah, and I've done fun projects with other people before too, and it's kind of a way to kind of expand my thinking, because they can put in something that I wouldn't have thought of. And so I love doing stuff like that, but also most of my paintings and murals are just solo.
Well, I have a question, because as a working artist, and I am so fortunate to have a piece of your art, and it brightens every single day. I love having that art. Thank you. And so you have people like me who have it in their home. And I'm just sharing my screen again to show that you also do murals. I mean, here you can see this is for Facebook. And then I know you do like private residence murals. I love seeing this part of your process here. So what is it like, you know, doing your own work and then people buy it or don't buy it versus murals and it's corporate versus something else I'm not even aware of? Like, how do you manage all those pieces? Because I think when I think of art, I think you go into your studio space, you make what you want, and then people buy it, hopefully, right? You got to probably clarify that a little bit for us.
Yeah. So let's see. Well, what do you mean when you mean clarify? Just like what it's like to have the art out in the world?
Yeah, to just balance out you creating what you'd like and then you put it out there to sell versus you got hired to do a project. Like one's client driven and then one is a little bit more artist driven. Is that accurate? Yeah. What's the difference between that? Like, how do you balance it out?
Yeah, it's interesting when when I make a piece just in my studio, it does have a different, like I just, I make it, and then if someone likes it, they end up buying it. But if someone hires me for a project, maybe it feels like a little more pressure because they have, they might have expectations, or I want to make sure they're happy with what they're getting, rather than them already being happy with something that's already produced. But I don't know, I feel really lucky that with like projects that I've worked on, for the most part, people are pretty open to what I want to create and pretty flexible around that. Yeah, the one around Facebook was really interesting because people were actually working in the space as I was making it. So they would come and watch and talk to me about it, which was really, a really interesting process because usually I'm alone in my studio and just focused on the work, but having kind of people there to connect with was really interesting, and kind of seeing what they saw in the piece and stuff was neat.
Yeah, that is really neat. Yeah, different than what you usually do, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with, what do you like best about this career path and what do you struggle with the most?
Yeah, what I like best, I think just getting to do what I love the most and getting like paid for it. I feel so like lucky that I get to do that. Yeah, and just being creative and making art as a job is pretty cool to me. So that's like my favorite thing about it. My least favorite, you know, I think there's some like inconsistency with like work, kind of. So some months there'll be a lot of work and a lot of jobs and a lot of things I'm working on, and then other months it can be kind of slow, so it can be hard to kind of predict my income. Yeah, so that's kind of my least favorite. It's not consistent there.
Okay, so I'm sure you're not surprised. Those of my students who are looking into a career in art, and we're talking any branch of creative art, right? It can be also music and theater, all of those things. Yeah, that's the worry for them is, you know, how will I know I'm gonna like make it in this field, because it's just not that traditional, like you get a paycheck no matter what kind of position, and it extends beyond art and creative fields. But I imagine you dealt with that, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So something that was really helpful for me, I think, was especially like getting started in it, was having another job that supported me like financially, but it was also something like I wasn't working at a like 9-to-5 job, and it wasn't taking all my time and energy. So I still had time to make art and energy and to make art. So finding something that kind of balanced out, yeah, and didn't draw away from my art, rather, but it more fed it and contributed to it. Yeah.
Can I ask what you picked? I mean, it's going to be different for everybody, but where did you find that balance?
Yeah, so I help manage a yoga studio and teach yoga at the studio as well. And I actually find a lot of like similarities between my yoga practice and my art practice. Yeah, so I really feel like they feed each other, and they're, yeah, really nice balance between the two. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you were able to find that. Yeah. And now you have double expertise. So that's always neat. Okay, so in closing, I'm going to keep this question really broad. What tips, advice do you have for a budding artist who's thinking about taking this into a career?
Yeah, good question. I think if it's, yeah, something like you deeply love and are deeply passionate about it, just keep making art and keep like connecting with others who are also passionate about art, and staying like in those kind of conversations, and keep going to see art. Yeah, that's some of the advice I have. Just keep doing it, and making those connections, like you said, I really have been really key for my my kind of career. Yeah.
Right. Keeping yourself surrounded in whatever drives you is just good, solid advice, no matter what the career field. But art does seem like one of those. You really can't draw away from it too much, like you said. It has to be, I heard you say you're working on it every day.
Mm-hmm.
It really has to be part of ritual to
Yeah.
stay in the forefront. So, well, thank you for being a working artist. We need art in the world. So I know I do. So thanks for also spending the time and telling us how we make that a part of a career path.